We live in what should be the best time in human history. We have more technology, more convenience, and more knowledge at our fingertips than ever before. Yet, if you look around, or even just look inside, anxiety seems to be everywhere. It's a constant hum in the background of our lives. We're always comparing ourselves to others on social media, we're bombarded by an endless cycle of bad news, and we feel a deep uncertainty about what the future holds. It feels like a uniquely modern problem. But what if I told you that the cure for this very modern feeling is actually ancient? What if, 2,000 years ago, long before smartphones and the internet, brilliant minds in places like Greece, Rome, and India had already figured out the secrets to calming the human mind? They didn't have the distractions we have, but they faced war, plague, political turmoil, and personal loss. They understood human nature deeply. In ancient Rome, the most powerful man in the world, Emperor Marcus Aurelius, sat down in his tent during military campaigns and wrote private notes to himself. He wasn't writing about battle strategies, he was writing about how to control his own thoughts amidst chaos and even a deadly plague sweeping his empire. Around the same time in Greece, a former slave named Epictetus was teaching philosophy. His core message was simple but profound. Our suffering doesn't come from events themselves, but from our judgment about them. It comes from getting upset about things we can't actually control. And halfway across the world, in India, an ancient text called the Bhagavad Gita unfolds on a battlefield. The hero Arjuna is paralyzed by anxiety and despair before a massive battle. He doesn't want to fight. The entire text is a conversation about how to find calm, clarity, and purpose even in the face of terrifying chaos. Think about that for a second. Different cultures, different continents, different languages. Yet they were all grappling with the same fundamental human problem: how to deal with an anxious, worried mind. And remarkably, they all arrived at very similar solutions. Let's start with one of the most powerful ideas, shared by both Stoicism and Indian philosophy. Epictetus put it plainly: some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. The Bhagavad Gita teaches a similar concept called karma yoga. It says you have a right to your actions, but you have no right to the fruits of your actions. What does this mean for our modern anxiety? It means we need to separate our effort from the outcome. We get anxious when we obsess over things we can't control. What people will think of our work, whether we'll get the promotion, if our date will like us. The ancient advice is to pour all your energy into the things you can control. Your preparation, your effort, your attitude, your actions. That's your domain. The result? That's not up to you. Let it go. Control your input and release your attachment to the output. This single shift in perspective can dissolve a huge amount of anxiety. Next, let's look at the nature of change. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that everything is in a state of flux. He wrote, "Observe how quickly all things disappear, the things themselves and the memory of them in eternity." In Indian philosophy, this concept is called anitya, or impermanence. Everything is temporary. Think about what's stressing you out right now. That difficult project at work, that argument you had, that fear you have about the future. Ancient wisdom invites you to zoom out and see it in the grand scheme of things. Your stress, your problems, your fears, they are not permanent fixtures. They are like clouds passing in the sky. When you truly absorb the idea that nothing lasts forever, not the good and not the bad, the panic begins to soften. The intensity of the moment loses its grip on you. So, what do we do when faced with a challenge? Our anxious instinct is often to avoid it, but the ancients taught the exact opposite. The Stoic philosophy has a famous saying, "The obstacle is the way." The thing you are dreading is the very thing you must move toward. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna to run away from the battle. He tells him to face his duty, to act, even while feeling fear. Avoidance is like fuel for anxiety. The more you avoid something, the bigger and scarier it gets in your mind. Action, on the other hand, shrinks it. The modern takeaway here is to move toward your discomfort, even if it's just one small step. Make that phone call you've been putting off. Start that difficult conversation. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. And when you act, the mental noise of anxiety starts to quiet down. But how do we handle the frantic thoughts themselves? Both traditions developed powerful tools for this. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, practiced a form of journaling. They would review their day, question their emotional reactions, and challenge their negative impressions. They were doing a form of cognitive therapy on themselves. Meanwhile, Indian traditions develop meditation. The goal of meditation isn't to stop your thoughts. That's impossible. The goal is to observe them without judgment and without getting carried away by them. Both of these practices point to a revolutionary insight. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of the thoughts. When you can create a little space and just watch your anxious thoughts come and go, instead of automatically believing every single one, they lose their power. They lose their authority over you. Finally, anxiety loves a vacuum. It thrives in empty space when your mind has nothing to hold on to. Both Stoicism and Indian philosophy place a huge emphasis on duty and purpose. Marcus Aurelius found his anchor in serving the Roman people responsibly. His purpose was bigger than his personal fears or moods. The Bhagavad Gita teaches the concept of dharma, your unique purpose, your deeper responsibility in the world. Having a clear sense of purpose organizes the chaos of your mind. It gives you a direction, a reason to get out of bed, a why that is stronger than your anxiety. When you are focused on a meaningful mission, whether it's raising a family, creating art, building a business, or helping your community, there's simply less room for restless circular overthinking. The ancient philosophers weren't superhuman. They didn't eliminate stress or anxiety from their lives. What they did was train their response to it. They built a kind of mental and emotional resilience that we can still learn from today. Their message, distilled over 2,000 years, is elegantly simple. Focus on what you can control and accept what you cannot. Find the courage to act in the face of fear. Remember that this too shall pass. And learn to observe your mind without being its slave. Find your purpose and let it guide you. Anxiety feels like a modern epidemic, but the solution is ancient, timeless, and it still works just as well today. Thanks for watching.